Hello, this is Aaron Saft on the MR Runningpains podcast. With 30 years of running experience and 20 years of coaching, I thought it time to share with you things I've learned and people I've met so that you can try things for yourself and see if they help your running. Thanks for joining me.
Wrote this song while crewing Aaron on a 100-mile foot race through the trails in the rain and mud. How about that? Miles to go. 100 miles to go. Don't ask me why I do it, I don't know. Miles by foot. 100 miles by foot. Don't ask me why I do it, I can't stay put. Rain is a coming, can't give a fit. Rain is a coming, can't give a fit. Don't ask me why I do it, but I am legit.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of MR Runningpains. And I have a very special guest here with me in this podcast, Miss Abby Harris. Abby is a longtime friend. We've been through the trenches in multiple arenas. She has worked with me at Footer X, the old running store. We also put on Hellbender together, so she was one of the instrumental people in helping put on Hellbender and making sure that everything went smoothly and the runners had a great time. Abby is, of course, a great friend to me. She's also an athlete that I coach, and I've had the pleasure of doing a few adventures with this year, and we're going to talk about those and how she reaches for new distances and how she approaches them. So hopefully this is a good episode for those of you that are thinking about tackling a new distance and wanting to go further. We're also going to touch base on new trail runners, whether it be first timers, that may be intimidated by the trail, or if you're a woman looking for some tips for safety and just being out on the trail, or how to introduce yourself to the trail. Abby is a great resource for that. So I look forward to our conversation. And with no further ado, I give you Miss Abby Harris. All right, as I kind of said in the introduction, Abby Harris is here with me. Miss Abby, hello.
Ooh, hello, how's it going?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm happy that we're in December. Happy we're done with almost the rest of this year. So
That's right. That's right. I was telling Abby, in the introduction, I kind of introduced how we knew each other, but why don't you give us a little background on yourself?
Yeah. So hello, I'm Abby, and I've lived in Asheville for about 10, 11 years now, and originally from Durham, North Carolina. So yes, I am familiar with the infamous Umstead State Park over there. And right now, I currently work at White Blaze Marketing. I do a lot of their digital marketing over there. And then I also work over at Anti-Fragile Physical Therapy here in Asheville. I do a lot of their marketing coordinating as well over there. But yeah, I've lived here for a good while now. And with my partner, Joe, he's my fiance, and he's a school counselor over at one of the local high schools here. And yeah, we just love it here in Asheville. We love our community of people and friends, and we are trying to get married. Unfortunately, a pandemic has pushed that back, but yeah, we still like it here, and enjoy our time with each other and with our friends, and yeah, so it's a little bit about me, maybe.
Absolutely. Abby and I met through FootRx
Yep.
a while back. Why don't you take us through your progression and your running history, if you will? How did it all start, and where did you get your roots?
Yeah, totally. So first off, hated running. I'm sure some people have that same sentiment of like hated running and I loved it. But yeah, I hated running. I associated it a lot with really annoying conditioning drills in soccer, and purposely picked the goalkeeping position because I didn't have to run as much. So I started running though about 2015. So only about 5 years ago. Picked it up from my dad. My dad started running a little while beforehand. And it was just cool to see, his progression throughout it. In particular, just the new social group of people he had kind of picked up. And yeah, like dad was like starting to run, 25Ks, 50Ks. He did a 40-miler at one point. And I'm like, dang, I got to catch up. Like, what am I doing? No, but it was, just seeing the positive effects that it had on him, just in terms too of, that mental health. Was really profound for me. And, 2015 especially was just not a great year for me. I just had a lot of things going on in life. And so, yeah, I just decided I'm going to start running. So I downloaded the Couch to 5K like app on my phone, and like went to my apartment complex like gym to run on the treadmills there, like do the workout. Or I would go to like Beaver Lake and do it. I'm not even kidding. That's how I literally started running. But it just, is a way to kind of teach yourself how to like pace yourself and kind of build up, that cardiovascular. Yeah. So I started doing that, and then, definitely picked up trail running through dad. He did a lot of that with his friends. He found a group of people to run with, and found the North Carolina Mountain Trail Runners through what was, even before then, it was just a group run at FootRx, meeting at Biltmore Park. And you'd have like the one group that would go run on the roads and the one group that would kind of run on the trails. Yep. I remember going to one of those and being like, this is kind of cool, having a group of people to run with. But it was also my first group run where I was like dead last. Like everybody just like took off. I'm like, all right. The person like keeps going back, like, are you okay back there? I'm like, yeah, just not as fast as you guys. Like I think it was like Ann and Clint and Morgan and like Clay, I was like, dang. But it was really cool to have just like people to be with and run with. And it just kind of built up from there, especially once the trail club got created. Having the Monday night runs was definitely a way that just kind of totally branched, or where I branched out, into other areas I would go run, other distances I would attempt, just people in general to run with. That's kind of what, sparked that kind of trail journey for me, really. So, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What was your first trail race?
Frosty Foot.
Oh,
The 8K. Yeah, it was 2016. Yeah, I signed up for the 8K, wore the worst shoes because it had just rained. I had like some Saucony like zealots on, and I was like, all right, let's do this. And it was awful. I just slipped everywhere. And I remember Morgan Elliott being like, you should just do the 30K. And I'm like, I've never done 10 miles. Like, you should just do the 30K. And I'm like, I don't have any gear. Like, I have a goo that I'm going to take it mile 2. I was just like, oh, okay. No, I did the 8K, and it was super fun. I just liked that whole environment. That was my first kind of trail race environment. And I remember even just spending like the whole day there, just watching people come through, like being in total awe of people doing the 30K and 50Ks. I'm like, dang, like these people are out here for 8 hours or so, and it's cold. Right. So it was just super fun, like hanging out with people and, just kind of witnessing that, not realizing that, oh, I'm going to get roped into this. So, but yeah, that was my first time.
That's the gateway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, listeners, a little background. Solly Frosty Foot was a race that I took over about 11 years ago. It's out at the Solly Recreation Area, which is west of Asheville, near Bryson City. And it goes around Fontana Lake, which is a beautiful setting for a race. It's in January. So as Abby was saying, it can be very cold, rainy, miserable, or we could have 70-degree weather. We never know here in North Carolina. But we had an 8K, a 30K, and a 50K. Now, Will Jurgensen has taken that over. As I've kind of, turned over my race directing hat, but Solly is a special place. And I think it's a wonderful, first timer course for whatever distance. If you're choosing a new distance, whether it be just to try a trail race or move up in distance like a 30K or, even step into the world of ultra and try the 50K. It's just a very beginner friendly course. So, I encourage you to check that one out. I believe it's already sold out because of the limited numbers, for 2021. Will had to, decrease the numbers, but cool. You obviously did progress in distance, starting with the 8K. So how did you progress in distance after that?
Not well. I kind of I just jumped into, here's the thing. I was like, oh my gosh, I've just found this new sport that I love and a whole group of people that are super fun to be around. And I literally just did whatever people did. So yeah, I did Frosty Foot in January. And then in March, I did what used to be Fontandango. I did that race that you put on. It was a 10 miler. So that was my longest race I had done then. And then in May, I did the Cradle to Grave 30K. Learned some hard lessons from that. Okay. Did not bring near enough nutrition and hydration, and suffered awful calf cramps going up Yellow Gap. And then in June, I got roped into doing Art Loeb with some friends. Oh my goodness. If for those who aren't familiar with Art Loeb, it's about 31, 32 miles. So yeah, I just was like, with, here we go. Tremendous yeah, some significant. And we were self-support too. So I had all my gear on me, and we were filtering water too. So that was also all right, I have all this gear on me. And let me just add, that much weight to my pack, while traversing this route. Yeah, I just went full,
gangbusters.
Pretty much. Yeah, I just wouldn't recommend it. And it definitely caught up with me later that year. Which is why I'm such an advocate for you should gradually work into these distances, listen to your body. It's fun to do things that everyone else is doing, but your body might not think so.
Yeah. In what way did it catch up with you later in the year?
Well, in September of that year, I suffered a pelvic stress fracture, and it occurred on a run. I had part of a trail kind of give way, and my foot just like slipped awkwardly back from it, and I just felt this like sharp pain like right in my backside, and I was like, "Woo!" And like the next few days, I couldn't pick up my leg. Like putting on shorts was a huge task for me. And I took some time off. And I tried to do like a small run in Carrier Park, which is super flat. And just within like a quarter mile, I was like, oh my gosh, this pain is excruciating. And then, I eventually got an MRI, and they had confirmed that I had a stress fracture there. But it was due in part, like, some people don't know this about me, but about that time and in years before, I'd suffered from an eating disorder too. So I had, really like had this whole like cycle of that intermixed with my running, that I had no idea that my like bone density was being affected. My iron levels were plummeting from it. My vitamin D levels were affected. Like that also contributed into my stress fracture, because my physician was like, so you didn't fall? And I'm like, no, I just like slipped weird off on a trail. And he's like, that's super unusual to see in somebody who's in their mid-20s, Right. So, I had a lot of work with that, and also just kind of like, like I need some help in terms of that as well. And having a sports dietitian in addition to that has been monumental for my running, and just, everyday life in general. But that definitely was also kind of a thing that I had to kind of face, early on in my running, was just, you take care of yourself. yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So
was the eating disorder something that you recognized or that somebody else recognized?
I had kind of recognized it. It was more so my physician had some red flags from it. Like for me, I had struggled a lot with body dysmorphia, especially in terms of athletic performance. Like in soccer, like I definitely was probably 20, 30 pounds heavier in my high school years. And for me, like slowest kid getting down the field. And so, I would get remarks from my coach about like, you need to start dropping some weight to like get faster on the field, Okay. So I had that tied into my athletic performance for years. And then when I started like naturally running, like I would just naturally started losing weight because I was picking up such a high cardiovascular activity. Well, that was really triggering in my aspect, because I'm like, whoa, I'm losing all this weight. Like I need to do calorie in, calorie out, Like here's an example. Some people don't know this. So I did Art Lobe. We spent 12 to 13 hours out that day because we're having to self-support. I came home and I had some avocado toast for my dinner because I didn't want to I wanted to maintain my weight loss from it, which is crazy. Nowadays, I finish an ultra and I want a cheeseburger. It's so different. But I didn't quite realize it until, he had set me up with a dietitian who specializes in eating disorders. And she was kind of going over everything, like, especially she had me list things I was eating every day. And she's like, you don't eat enough. Like you need to eat 2 to 3 times more than what you put in pretty much. And just going through a lot of therapy around that has totally been a game changer for me. It's running the sport itself. There's a lot that revolves around food. We need to be on this special diet to perform this way. We need to modify our diets in some sort of way. And for me, like I've been able to kind of just see it, acknowledge it, and just be like, yeah, like I've already been down that track. It didn't end up well for me. It ended up being 6 months of no running because of a pelvic stress fracture. So I don't really want to do it again. And honestly, like my eating has been great. And because of it, like my recoveries have been awesome from it. Like I recover better. I feel like I run better. I just feel like I feel better overall in general from it. So
good.
Yeah.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So this was all through, you said a sports dietitian, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, I mean, I hope that if somebody even feels they have questions or tendencies towards something of a disorder, that, they could seek that kind of help. Or just, have a physician that was as good as yours to kind of say, there are some red flags. Maybe you should seek that help. But thank
Yeah,
you for
definitely.
absolutely.
Sure.
I mean, you've had a roller coaster of, of a running career. We'd be remiss not to talk about Hot Rod.
Yeah.
The so, Abby's nickname is Hot Rod, and I'll let her explain the story as to why that's so.
Yeah. So, so the hot rod is the nickname for the metal rod that's in my tibia. How I got that was it was about 3 years ago. So yes, a September injury again. September of 2017, I think it was, or 2018. I was helping a friend attempt a run called Pitchell. So it's underground run. You run from Mount Pisgah to Mount Mitchell, and it's about 67 miles, give or take. And you start at the summit of Pisgah, and it's like a mile hike up. It's super technical, really rocky. And we had just taken a Facebook Live video at the top of Pisgah, and we had just started descending down, and like a quarter mile just off the summit, I had slipped like on a wet, kind of leafy, rock outcropping, and just saw my leg torqued around. I was like, oh God. I just snapped my leg. So yeah, I broke my leg and my ankle up on Mount Pisgah, and I just, like, my buddies were like, can we help carry you down? I'm like, no way. Like, no way. I literally just obliterated my leg. We're like a 3/4 of a mile way down, and it's super technical. It's getting dark. There's no way you guys can carry me. And we had to call. Luckily, we had cell service, so we called search and rescue, and I called my fiance Joe. So he was expecting me to call about pizza that I was picking up that night. I'm like, I don't have pizza. I have a broken leg. I'm like, you need to get to Pisgah. But anywho, so yeah, I waited on that mountain for like 3.5 hours. So yeah, I mean, it was dark, and you're just waiting there. You're getting carried down in a Stokes basket by like 8 people, and just like the pain of it, I kind of remember, and it's interesting. I have, like, my brain has kind of blocked it out almost. Like, certain moments I have no recollection, just because it was so traumatic. I mean, I was literally like in and out of, waves of pain from it. But yeah, I got shuttled off to the hospital, and yeah, they had said I had a spiral displaced tibial fracture. So I didn't break the skin. It was close, apparently. And then I'd fractured my ankle too. So I had to get surgery. So I got a rod in my tibia, and then I had screws. I had one going through my ankle, and then I had placement screws around the rod just to secure it. But yeah, they told me you can't walk on it for 12 weeks. I was like, what? So yeah. So yeah. So, I'm like, great. And it's my driving foot, so I can't drive. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely a period in the hospital where I'm like, oh my God, like, I just recovered from a pelvic stress fracture the year before, and now I've just like snapped my leg in half. So yeah. It was one of those, it was such a weird time. I mean, it's interesting. I kind of accepted where I was at more than my pelvic stress fracture, because my pelvic fracture, I could still walk around and stuff like that. With this, I was like, I'm literally couch bound. Like, I have a walker. I have to be in a wheelchair. I have to rely on people to drive me to places, to help me upstairs, to help me get dressed. I had to use, what was it, like a shower stool? Like, I couldn't even shower myself. It's just like, you're temporarily handicapped, and you're just like, okay, like, what a huge shift in just life happening in that moment. Not only for me, but even for my partner. He was finishing up grad school at the time, and he's having to be like my part-time caregiver at the same time. And, I'm just like, days where I was in the house by myself, because he's having to go to school, go to work, and then do internship stuff. And he wouldn't be home until late at night. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't been able to go upstairs today. Like I've just been downstairs and outside of my front porch. That's all I've had today. But I tell you what, PT, PT was a huge game changer for me. Man, I would go to PT 2 or 3 times a week, and it was awesome. Shout out to Christine Walkerwitz. It was like, I was so motivated. I told her, I was like, I know what happens when people break their ankles and what happens when they don't do their PT. And I promise you, I'm going to be doing my PT exercises every single day because I want my mobility to come back pretty much. But it's crazy. Like, you have some exercises like I'll never forget this one where you have to practice like kind of scrunching your toes up. And she like laid out these marbles and pink foam cubes. And oh my God, I just remember my foot. Like I was like, it's like the scene in Kill Bill where you're like, wiggle your big toe, like my foot was just flopping around on marbles. I couldn't even pick anything up. I was just like, oh my God, like how far have I like fallen back in terms of just like movement? But I tell you what, like getting off my crutches and getting out on my boot was just like such a win for me. I was so happy to wear like 2 shoes, like hobbling around on it. It was such a cool, I was like, I don't even care if I'm not ready. I'm just like happy to be on 2 feet, So, but, oh my gosh.
We did get you back to running. And I mean, even, we got you, that took us through to like almost spring of last year, right? That was, wasn't it? That's when you got up and going again?
Yeah, because I had surgery the following December to get a lot of that hardware out. They didn't take the rod out. They took all the screws out because they were like really pinching. Oh, they would be so painful on runs, like runs longer than an hour. I was like, I can't tolerate this. They took some of the screws out. And that felt so much better. But yeah, I think it was about the spring of last year. Yeah, where I was like, okay, like I want to do a 50K goal like race. I had never done a 50K race. Like I had done the distance once or twice, but I was like, I can't get to this dang race. So yeah, I think that's when we had decided on doing Cloudland Canyon 50K last December. So
and we built up Cloudland. Right? Yep.
Yeah.
And then that you made it through. You got your 50K.
Yeah, that was fun.
But then then you decided you wanted to even go further. So you finished the 50K, and did you feel like you had more in you? Is that what was that, or was it the fact that there's further distances out there that you're like, I wonder what that would feel like? What was the thoughts going through your head?
It's kind of a mix of both. Like I was on such a high. I was like, I had such a breakthrough with my running finally. Like I finally felt like I was kind of putting a lot of that, trauma kind of in the past. And so, yeah, I wanted to do something like, it'd be cool to kind of play around with the 50 miler, like something like that would be kind of interesting to train for, just because to me, once you go past the 50K distance, I feel like it's a whole nother realm of just time on your feet, really. Like it could be running, it could be whatever. It's just like time on your feet. So that was definitely something I wanted to kind of explore. So yeah, I was like, let's look for some 50 milers for 2020. So
yeah,
not knowing that like,
that COVID would be here, but we had talked about, I think, Iron Mountain, right, in Virginia. Wasn't that one of the?
Yeah, there's Iron Mountain. There's one of Horton's races you're thinking I could do.
Oh, Mount Mascus. Yep.
Yeah, Mount Mascus. Yep. Was Lookout 51? Yep. Might have been.
Yeah, Lookout 50. Yeah. So, and that one's actually going to happen, but we decided, with everything that we would just do some kind of our own homemade events, which you got a lot done even with COVID.
Yeah.
So I mean, let's talk about this year. Because people are obviously like, I mean, you had 6 months when you first started really from 8K to 50K, but now we've gotten into some where we got you into training. We were prepping you. You got through a 50K nice and healthy. And then, we took some rest, came back this year with the plan of, potentially doing 50 miles. But we had a conversation. And the result of that conversation, I had talked you into probably just doing 100K.
Yeah.
by saying a few more miles. But we had a plan to build you up. So that was all going to be this fall. So this fall, you want to talk about, what you went through and what you did?
Totally. Yeah. So let me just preface. So yeah, Aaron had set up these just some events for some of the athletes in our groups, sub ultra weekends, ultra weekends. It was a way he would build a route, and it was great because that way the route's already there. He has different aid station points where your crew could meet you and you could do it whenever you wanted. So yeah, I looked at the routes because for the ultra routes, he'd had 50K, 100K, and 100 miler to start. And I had commented on the Facebook page, I'm like, oh, there's no 50-mile option. And Aaron's like, well, what's a couple more miles with friends? Just hint, hint, just do the 100K. So where were we? We were sitting in Maryland out camping or something, and I was like, all right, whatever. So Joe's like, really? But so yeah, I was like, all right, I'll just do it. I'll just double my distance. So yeah, we had the goal to go in for the 100K, and for the fall training, I did a 50K one weekend. It was in September. It was a route that Aaron had built in Pisgah. And it was really fun. I had a great day out there. The weather was awesome. Aaron, I know you paced me for a couple miles. I forgot your pumpkin muffins like a fool. But yeah. But it was that the whole goal. I made it up. I brought him pumpkin. Aaron, for those who don't know, Aaron loves pumpkin chocolate chip muffins, so he loves them. He'll eat them any time of the year. So that race, I went in with the mindset of, okay, we're not going all out today. We're not running for time or pace. We're running for time on feet, pretty much. So the route itself had on the back end, it had a lot of steep kind of technical downhill that just happened to be kind of wet at this thing. I think it had rained maybe a couple of days before, and there were leaves that had just fallen too. So terrain like that is really tough for me sometimes because of just the nature of my leg break. I had a little torsion in my tibia, and also just I have a little PTSD from slipping. So I'm a little slow going on stuff like that. So it did take me a little longer on the back end. But I tell you what, I recovered like a champ from that 50K. I mean, the following week, I was already doing back to tempos, which was crazy. I mean, even Cloudland Canyon 50K, I was kind of struggling for, a week or so. But this, I was within a day or two, I was yeah, I feel fine. Nothing's really sore. I'm good to go. It's just start running again. But I was really happy with that. That was it was a good sign. I will say though, once I got back to the car, I mean, with any, distance like that, you finish. And I was like, holy crap, I'm going to have to double this. I think I said that to Joe too. I'm like, oh my God, that's I have to do another loop of that, woof, that's going to be, if that took me 8.5, 9 hours to do, this is going to be a really long day. This is going to be such a long day in the woods come November. So, yeah.
Yeah. We had also, you had done kind of a people shut in, right? Wasn't that right before the 50K as well? So, shut in, I think that was wasn't that
no, it was before, it was 2 to 3 weeks, I think, before the 100K. I think that's what it was.
Yeah. I remember the order, but even so, I mean, coming off no, you're right. Yeah, you're right. It was. So yeah, you did the 50K, and then we still squeezed in a shut in prior to the 100K.
Yeah.
I mean, again, for those of you that don't know, shut in is local to us. It's our Mountains to Sea trail that starts at the French Broad River, basically, and runs up to Mount Pisgah. So it's about 5,000 feet of gain over about 17 and a half miles. So Abby, we plugged that in. She did it with some of her teammates from our squad, and it was really cool because I mean, we kind of have done more subtle. Even the 50K, I mean, it was a little bit more subtle so far as gain goes. Shut-in's pretty stout. So that was really a solid mountain run. So I was stoked to see you get through that and be okay.
Yeah, I mean, climbing for me, like, not an issue. It's funny, before my leg break, I hated climbing. Like, descending was my deal. I love like long descents, like quick descents, like stuff like, but after that, I like quickly switched. So, yeah, I don't mind climbing. Like, to me, I just put my head down. I don't look up. I just keep going. So, but yeah, that was a good day. It was kind of warm that day, I will say. It was kind of the bummer. But yeah, it's like, if you do it from the bottom up, I mean, it was probably like 5,000 feet almost climbing. Like, the race is a little less because they don't do that first little section of it. And you get some significant climbing in that first bit. But yeah, it's about a little, like, just about 5,000 feet of climbing in it. That felt good. I mean, it's funny, like, so the last part of shut-in, when you go up 151, it's just like this wall of just rocky trail. I mean, you're just kind of like, you can't really run it. But I just like kept thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm going to be at this point at like mile 43 or 44, like, I can't wait to climb this thing in the dark, for my 100K, woohoo. But I felt pretty good. Like, it's interesting. I didn't even think about the logistics, like, just mentally, a lot of that, about that distance a whole lot. Like, I wasn't psyched out by it for some weird, I think it's because with COVID and everything going on, it was kind of a distraction for me because I wasn't really like nervous about it or like, oh, I don't know. It didn't really phase me as much until I got to it, really. It was like later on, I was like, oh my God. But yeah, I just wasn't like people were like, are you like freaked out about this? And I was like, no, I'm like really looking forward to this because I really want to like get away. It was like during the election too. I was just like, man, I just want to like be in the woods and just not like have to look at this stuff anymore. Yeah. So that was like the first time I really had that. Cause even on my 50K last year, I was like, oh man, like gearing up for this. Like, what am I I haven't been at that, point, in a while where I'm at mentally with it. And for this, I was just like, yeah, I'm ready to go. So, slept fine.
Well, I mean, training had gone great. Absolutely. But we should be remiss if we didn't say, what the theme was behind this.
Oh yeah.
You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So again, just to preface, so Joe and I are supposed to get married this coming April, but we decided to postpone due to the pandemic. Well, before all that, I decided like it would be kind of fun to like tie this, race into my like pre-bachelorette party, something like that. Even like last year, I was like, I'm going to run a 50 mile for my bachelorette party. And it's going to be so great. None of my bachelorettes run, but whatever. Yeah, so I was like, let's just do it. Like, why not? Like, we need to have fun. People need to have fun things to look forward to. I need it. Joe needs it. Like, let's just do it. So, also, like, none of my bridesmaids can come. They're all in different states. So I didn't like force them to come out and run like 50 miles with me. But yeah, I had Joe there, obviously. And I also, just to make this even more fun, I decided to order some cool sashes off of Etsy. So everybody got to pick their own sash. Yep, Aaron's got his there. So Aaron was appropriately the bad influence sash for suggesting that I like go this further distance. My dad, he ran with me for a couple miles and he was party animal. He still has his sash too. I noticed last weekend. So Joe was single tonight. He's the crew chief. He's not going to see me. Then I had Greg Little and his girlfriend Jamie. Jamie was what was she again? Greg was Shot Queen. I think. Jamie was Hot Mess. That's right. Yeah. Then my friend Christian, she was Maid of Dishonor. Let's see, and then Mark and Laura were selfie queens. So everybody had a fun little role, within the whole day itself.
Yeah.
And everybody had to take a shot of Fireball afterwards. because that's like my little inside joke with ultra running. I had my little Hot Rods Heat Fireball. So, which also Aaron, people, just letting you know, he took a huge swig. We were like, oh my God.
Yeah,
he had to run back down to his car. I was like, oh my God.
that 5 miles was interesting. Yeah.
I
ran 20 with Abby, and so didn't quite have a lot of calories in my system. So it took a good swig of healthy swig of Fireball.
Oh my God. Yeah, we were like, whoa.
To run downhill on single track. Oh my goodness. It was, yeah. Not suggested. Not suggested.
Like, okay. It's like noon.
Yeah, it was a good time. But I upheld my end of the bargain.
Yep, you did. But yeah, I figured, like, let's have fun with it. Let's just make it a fun little bachelorette party. And I had my bride-to-be sash pinned on the back of my pack, so, which nobody remarked on it, like, on any of the trails. Like, nobody said anything. I was kind of bummed. So...
well, I mean, the event moved on, I did whatever 20 miles with you, and then you kept going, and I was getting reports everything was going good, and then it started to get dark, and then the plan kind of changed. So what was going on that the things changed?
Yeah, so earlier in the week, I think it was like Tuesday, I was out for a shakeout run in my neighborhood and just totally rolled my ankle on a pothole. It had a bunch of leaves on it. I was like, oh great. And it was my bad ankle from my accident. And I was like, great. let me see what I can do about this. I'd been icing it and taking some time off. So was a bit nervous going into the run because of it. Cause I'm like, it's not even the technical trail I have to deal with. It's just the time on the feet I have to deal with. And even, the first 20 miles in, we had a bunch of creek crossings, and I was, towards the end of it, I was like, I'm kind of feeling my ankles kind of talking to me. So I put on a sleeve, and I was running with my dad down a forest road called South Ridge, and it's kind of a gradual descent down. And at that time, like before, I was like, oh, this is gonna be such a good time for me to, make up some time on my feet, run with dad. And I was really struggling on parts of the downhill because of my ankle. More and more throughout the run, I was running less because of, I was feeling that pain in my ankle more and more. And then I started feeling it in my other ankle because I was compensating off of it. And so I was like, I think it's a tendon that's bugging me. But yeah, I remember getting to I think it was Mills River Overlook. It's probably like mile 40. And I was like, I need to sit. Like, I just need to sit and just see where I'm at. I was like, my other ankle's killing me now. I can't run on it. I'm moving slower. And I'm like, I've been out here for a while now. So my friend Mark, he put like a little hand warmer heat pack in one of my socks to kind of help warm up my tendon. And so, took off and then went up 151 on it. And climbing wasn't too bad. It was mainly descending was just really bugging me on it. Even my poles, it wasn't helping enough. Went up 151. I actually finished it quicker than they thought I would. I came into the Pisgah parking lot and they were like, whoa. I was like, I don't even know where I'm at, but yeah, I'm sitting in the Pisgah parking lot and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm just so tired. I've been out here for 16, 17 hours. And the whole time going up 151, I was dreading going down, Buck Spring Gap because I knew how technical it can be. I also knew that there's those little creek crossings that when I went up it for my 50K, they were flowing. Even in the daylight, it was tricky to cross. And from earlier in the day when we had done a bunch of our creek crossings, I was like, dang, we haven't had rain in a while. And this is a lot of water. So I was really freaked out about going down Buck Spring, even though I would have somebody with me, there's no cell service in there. And I was just like, I'm not even running anymore. It's just going to be another 6 hours, of just hiking pretty much. And luckily, Joe and my friend Laura had kind of caught on ahead. They kind of, they were getting the vibe that I was not in a great headspace. and that my ankle was getting worse. So they were already kind of planning out possible ideas. Like one of them was for me to go to 276 and run down that to meet up with Yellow Gap to go to the finish. That would have added more distance, but it would have been like flat surface. And then their other idea was for me to do from the Pisgah in parking lot, just to do an out and back on the parkway to hit 50. Cause I was at mile 44, 45 by then already. And they're like, you can just do that and you can just hit 50. Like you're so close to 50 miles. Like why not just hit that, you know? But yeah, I was sitting in the Pisgah parking lot and I'm like, the Mount Pisgah, I'm just like, I just had to laugh. So I was like, oh my God, like here I am in this stupid parking lot again. Like I'm crying. I just feel absolutely just like spent. The last time I was feeling like this was when I broke my leg and I'm sitting in the back of an ambulance. So I was like, this dang area for some reason. And I think even Joe mentioned, he's like, you can't just like be in this space anymore. Yeah, I'm like crying over my like sushi and chips. And I'm just like, I'm just so tired. But anyways, yeah, so I decided just to go for the 50-mile option. And yeah, Laura and I, we just like walked on the parkway and it was super foggy up there too. I mean, you couldn't see but like just a couple feet in front of you. But yeah, we were just clacking along with our poles and just chatting along, and I'm like popping peanut M&Ms in my mouth every so often just to like stay awake. And yeah, fun. So there's my turnaround point to go back to Pisgah Inn. Like Joe's like, oh wait, hold up. And he like goes over to my vest and like unzips it, and he pulls out this like little card, ID card. He's like, oh, you forgot something. And he, at some point during my run, had put his school ID in there with like, it says a picture of him, and on the back it says, love you so much, you're doing great. But he put it in a zip pocket that I never use. I was like, why would you put it there? So yeah, I was like, I was part of like mile 47. I'm like, oh, that's great. Just like, I don't really care. I just want to go back. But, what a champ. I mean, my goodness, Joe was like still super chirpy at like 1 a.m. I mean, he was like, you're doing great. But yeah, we got back to the Pisgah Inn, and I was like, I just want to walk with Joe. Like I haven't seen Joe at all today. Like I just literally want to walk with him for like this last like half mile that I have to do in this parking lot. So we just did laps in there, and my watch dinged at 50, and I was like, thank God I can go sit. I can go to bed. It wasn't even like, yay, did 50. It was just like, yay, we're done with this today. So yeah. But
well,
oh my God.
You know, I'm glad you didn't come out of it with any serious injury. You know, the ankle seems to be
yeah.
Seems to be right?
Hello.
That was Siri. Sorry.
Oh.
Siri decided to jump in there. I'm not sure why. Just saying hello. The ankle was okay after that.
Yeah, I had actually sprained a tendon in it. I had some bruising and swelling around it the next day. So I'm glad I didn't go anymore on it. It resolved fairly, like within the week or so. And it doesn't bug me anymore right now. But yeah, I mean, just like having that, kind of come on was just, added another layer to it. And I'm like, well, I mean, what can you do? So I was like, meh, it is what it is. Like, I'm not, like, I was kind of upset, it was my first like DNF technically. And, after witnessing, friends and other runners have to go through it, I totally get the frustration behind it. Like for a couple of days, I was just like, why in the world, like, would I do that to myself? And then I was also like, well, you also rolled your ankle by mistake. What can you do about that?
Right.
And just having to be like, dude, you just covered 50 miles, on your own.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
After processing it, would you go after 50 again?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. I think it'd be really fun, especially to do it in a race setting. It's interesting because, I was kind of comparing what the setting was like, with just friends as opposed to being in a race setting. And I can't tell which one I would enjoy more. Like the race setting is definitely nice because you're around other people. And it's nice too, because with aid stations around, you just have so much. I mean, not that we didn't have enough food or anything, but it's just such a different environment. Interesting enough too, I kind of wish I'd had like maybe a small section of my 50 mile that I had just done by myself, and just like had my music in and just like had my own just time to myself. Because I'm definitely one of those runners that likes to have just time by myself to kind of like reflect on where I'm at, kind of how I'm feeling, things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's even what happened to me at Cloudland Canyon last year at mile 18. I was like, cool, I'm kind of done running with people. I'm going to go off on my own. And that was like my favorite part. So that is something that, I kind of want to try out in a race setting, is just, kind of being back in that environment. I think it could be a little different, but I mean, there's definitely pluses to your own adventure. You can kind of do whatever you want. Yeah. So no time pressure. So
yeah, absolutely.
But,
so any ambitions to go any further in that, or just, try the 50 mile again, see how it goes?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely want to do 100K again. I think it's nice having a 50 mile under my belt, especially with just that time on my feet. Totally. I totally want to do 100K at some point. In terms of beyond that 100 miler, I'm not quite sure. I don't know if the appeal of doing a 100 miler is quite there for me, honestly.
Yeah.
I see what goes into it. I see, like, after helping put on Hellbender too, especially, like, that's a 36-hour cutoff. I mean, you see the state that people are in, what goes into it. Yep. For some people, that's what they want. I totally get it. But for me right now, I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
cool.
The fun thing is that Joe thinks crewing is really fun. So it's good to have.
He is a great crew member. I have to give it to him.
I was like, okay.
Yeah. He hiked into to Trace Ridge at that one point, and he had like a little mobile aid station, and they had
man,
and everything. I was like, wow. I mean, here we are, remote hiking, and he's spot on.
He's like, do you want some salted potatoes?
Yeah, spot, man. That was awesome.
I know. That was a treat.
So if we can switch the gears for a second,
Really?
you've obviously been a recent new to the sport runner, but you've also helped a lot of new runners get into the sport, and a lot of women as well. So let's talk on that for a little bit here. Coming into the sport yourself, and seeing other people that want to come into the sport or have come into the sport, what obstacles do you see as kind of in the way of possibly being a trail runner or getting into ultra running, or just trail running in general? Yeah,
so I think from my experience, especially, like, I have a little bit more experience with just especially with women getting into running or trail running in general. I think a lot of women, one of the number one things I hear is, I'm not fast enough. Like, I'm a slow runner. Like, I don't know that I could keep up with this group because I don't run super fast. And I think that's oh my gosh. I'm like, it does, like, people don't judge you for how fast you're running. Like, it's a totally different area, I think, even than road running, honestly. I mean, I was super paranoid that people would judge me for, the way I look, the way I run. Nobody cares. People care if you're a good, trail stewardess, if you're just genuinely nice to people, if you have a good attitude about you. But yeah, I think big fear of falling, people tripping, is another concern I hear a lot from folks, especially if it's a somewhat technical trail. I think too, a lot of people get kind of wary of trail running because they're worried about getting lost. They don't know where they're going. I've led a lot of group runs where people are paranoid that they're going to get left behind. And it's just reassuring. I always tell people, I'm like, we're not going to get lost. Like, we're going to wait at checkpoints. We're going to have, we'll have a person in the front who's leading and then a person in the back to make sure, like, nobody gets left behind. So when I used to help lead the women's Welcome to Trail Running group as part of the North Carolina Mountain Trail Runners, that was the whole purpose, was to just kind of offer, a safe space for women to come out and just, be with other women, like to show them like, hey, we're a whole diverse group of people. Like not everyone here is out to like crush a trail in terms of speed. You know, and I think that was really helpful for people to see and relate to other women around them who maybe were also kind of wary of, you know, the same things that they were. And in a sense too, it gave people a chance to like kind of create a buddy system. Like I found women who were like, you know, oh, do you want to go run in sometime in the week? Oh yeah, totally. Sure. You know, things like that. They were finding other people to run with even outside of the group, which was awesome. I think a lot of women too, they don't want to go run because they fear for their safety.
Yeah.
And so, you know, they're like, I don't want to go out by myself, you know, especially like right now it's cold and dark. And so having, you know, that connection to, you know, put that out there to people, I think was really helpful too, especially. But yeah, I think, you know, I'm the same way too. Like if I don't know where I'm going, I'm like, I get super paranoid by it too. But you learn these resources over time. You get to meet people who will give you good, you know, tips and tricks for things like that. And it's practice. Like trail running takes so much practice. You don't build, like even Joe even struggles with technical trail, but it's just because he's used to running flat surfaces. Like it just takes time to build up, you know, your ankles and tendons and just knowing how to, you know, kind of memorize the trail in front of you and just kind of going with the flow of it, really. You know, you don't have to run every uphill, like hiking is a thing. So that's kind of my experience within it.
And obviously we live in an area where there's a wealth of trails. How did you best get to know those trails so that you felt comfortable, you know, going out on your own and going for trail runs?
Yeah. So I would say like when I joined the North Carolina Mountain Trail Runners, we have a group run every Monday night. And that was my way to get to know Bent Creek, especially. I mean, if you're a first timer in Bent Creek and you look at that map, it is so overwhelming to look at, especially because a lot of routes are made up by like, it could be like 4 or 5 different trails.
Right.
That was my way to get to know kind of the area. Picked up the Bent Creek running book with all the trails and loops and stuff. But honestly, it was just the people I met in that group who would take me to different areas to go run was kind of how I learned just the different areas in general. Like we went to, this was like way back. We went to like Warren Wilson to do a trail run there. We would do, you know, the Black Mountain, like the vertical running crew, they would have group runs in Monterey areas. So you got to learn a lot of that. But yeah, it was just meeting up with friends to go out on runs, like the Art Loeb Trail, for example. I've never set foot in any of that trail until that day. And like getting a taste of that area. And honestly, just like doing my own research, just online, really. Like, what's a cool trail? Or you look at different forums on Facebook, and you kind of see different routes that people are doing.
Right.
That's kind of how I got to know the area a little bit better.
Strava has a wealth, you know, I mean, if you just follow other runners that, you know, do a lot of trail runs that, you know, are similar distance to what you're looking for, you can, you know, see their routes. All Trails, which is what we used for mapping your 100K. The routes that I created are all up on there. So people create routes and you can just, you know, watch them on your phone. So yeah, there's all sorts of resources and apps as well. So if you're using your phone, you know, you can use different programs like Gaia and All Trails that, you know, can have you on the route and show you where your dot is and where you want to go. So using those resources. But as you said, you know, safety is, I hear a lot, is one of the number one concerns for runners. You know, if we're talking in reality, what dangers have you faced?
Well, I guess my biggest one was falling and like needing to get medical attention on a trail. I mean, like I said, we were lucky we had cell service. I hear horror stories where people don't have cell service and they're stranded for days, you know? So one of the biggest things is just letting people know where you're going. And yeah, if you can bring your cell phone, bring your cell phone. If you, you know, can't bring yourself, like an InReach, there's the little GPS satellite phones as well. That's also another resource that you can take on if you know you're going to be out in really remote areas, especially. I totally bring like some small first aid supply kit stuff too with me, like a space blanket even. because we didn't have a space blanket that night and it got cold. Even the first responders didn't have one, which shocked me. Just like little things like that, being aware that, you could encounter wildlife. I haven't encountered too much of that, to be honest. Like I haven't had too many issues with bears or snakes, knock on wood. But I mean, yellow jackets I have. I've been, going up a super steep climb, hit a nest and been stung 4 or 5 times. And I'm like, well, crap, I don't have Benadryl on me. Like, I hope I'm okay.
Yeah.
And then just in general, like, awareness about wildlife, awareness of other people. I still, not every hiker could be friendly, but you just have to kind of keep your eyes and ears out and just be attentive to it.
Yep.
And also, just like sudden like weather changes too. You just never know. I mean, weather here in the area can be so fickle. It can be, like I said, Mount Pisgah, for example, when I did my 100K, it was like slightly raining and super foggy. We weren't expecting that at all. But yeah, I've been on runs where it's been like really sunny and then you get to the higher elevations and it's snowing and you're like, okay, did I plan for that today? So you always got to have, some sort of a backup plan and just some sort of preparedness with you. Again, like having been through a situation where I've been, on a trail stranded technically for a while, that's definitely been something where I'm like, okay, I need to make sure that I can have something with me that can help, me if I really need it, or somebody with me, in that case as well. So.
Yeah. The other thing I always recommend is just a small whistle.
Small whistle.
They can serve so many purposes, bringing attention to you if you are hurt, just keep blowing on it. It can scare away wildlife, so, I mean, a lot of things, call attention to yourself if you feel in danger, from another person. So a small whistle is always a great thing to have. And the space blanket is also, a great item to carry, because those things are so packable. So.
And if you don't have a space blanket, just get a trash bag. Like you can use a trash bag for anything. So
totally. Yep. Absolutely. And then, did you have any reservations when you started trail running, or did you feel pretty comfortable because you joined the group?
I felt pretty good for the most part. Like I had been kind of hiking by myself for a while before I started trail running a little bit. So I was kind of already used to being by myself in the woods, and kind of, challenging myself. But I mean, obviously like my first trail run, kind of being the last person in the back of the pack. Yeah, that kind of sat in the back of my mind a little bit. But I had met somebody in the group and she was super nice to me and we started just running together, honestly. And so that was a nice, like kind of confidence boost for me. Like I had somebody to run with and just chat with, really. It was something I really looked forward to. It was like, oh, cool. Like after work, I can go run with Mindy and we can kind of catch up and, just enjoy the time out in the woods. I mean, like our trail run groups, like they're split up into 4 different groups. So you have like an A group that goes, they're pretty quick. They go a little longer, and B group's kind of that moderate pace group, and C and D are kind of that moderate to a little slower. And yeah, I started off I dropped back in paces just because I was like, I'm not running as fast right now. I don't want to be in the faster group today. And I had like no shame in it. I know some people who sometimes like feel weird about it. And I honestly am just like, whatever, like, you don't have to run a certain way every time you go out with people. You should just run whatever you want to,
Yeah.
So, and then I started, like, I just got roped into helping lead some of the groups. So that just comes with a leadership role of like, okay, I'm about to lead a group of people through the woods tonight. I hope I can keep everybody in place. But honestly, it was just like, I looked at it as just like a time to connect with people and connect with new folks, especially to the group or to the area, really. Like it was fun to have new people to the area because you could just kind of show it off a little bit. Because people are like, I have no idea where I'm going, and you're like, yeah, here's a cool like loop you can do next time you come out here and go run.
I also I hear from a lot of women that, it's difficult for them to make group runs just because of family obligations. They typically say, like, they're more of a daytime runner when the kids are at school, and they can potentially get out and run. Any kind of suggestions or tips for them that they could go by?
I do. It's interesting, like, especially like we have a group chapter in Asheville. Some people may be familiar with Trail Sisters. And we usually will have like a group forum of like what people are running throughout the week. And I have found that a lot of women have been able to connect through that who are moms who like running at like 9 o'clock in the morning or so is like the perfect time for them. And they've been able to kind of connect through that. I guess my best advice is, if it's hard to find some sort of running group, like go to your local running store. I mean, that's how I found out about the Trail Club is I went to FootRx, and, they always have such good resources on, local groups in the area, or, connections, even like with other people in general. That might be a good way to kind of access, stuff like that. I mean, not everyone's on Facebook, so I understand, but there's always, Facebook groups, in regards to that, like just women running groups in general. But yeah, I know, I mean, a ton of women that the same thing, like they're like, nope, evenings, like I've got my kids at home, I can't do that. Even weekends, they have family commitments.
Yep.
Like I used to have women who couldn't come to my trail run because they're like, I've got the kids this morning, I can't come. And I'm like, that's cool. Like, if you want to just run on your own, that's fine. Or we can move it. But sometimes I think we moved it to Sundays or so, for some folks. But
cool. Great. Awesome. Any other good resources you can think of, that, maybe the beginner trail runner could go to, just to kind of learn a little bit more?
Yeah, like I said, I honestly do think like the local running store is such a good resource. Just because, I mean, you can get lots of tips on, gear and nutrition and just running routes and things like that, or local races, or, even like like books, things like that can be super helpful for beginners. We see so much, especially on like Instagram and whatnot, and it's a great resource. To me, it's just like so unrealistic sometimes. I just like, I've kind of phased away from following a lot of like pro ultra runners on Instagram just because I'm like, it's not realistic for the everyday runner. And it's nice to look at. Their pictures are cool. Like everything is neat, but it's just like that's not everybody's everyday life, honestly. Like there's plenty of trail runs I've been on where I'm like, that wasn't eventful. Like I just ran through the Arboretum today. Like that was super thrilling. But yeah, I think like for me, that's just been like such a great resource, in my past experience in terms of just meeting people and different connections through that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's also, like publications like Trail Runner Magazine always has like tips and tricks on things. Even like Women's Running Magazine always has things in there too. Or blogs, even like Trail Sisters, they have a wide variety of different, topics for women, on just about everything, that they can take a look at as well.
Awesome.
So
cool. Yeah. And at Strava, once again, you can reach out to folks on Strava and ask questions, like, do you know somebody that runs the trails that I could potentially follow or ask questions or something like that? So you can ask, people through Strava. I think that's a great, social use of that platform. So, not everybody wants to go on Strava. I totally get that, but again, it is a platform that can be used in multiple ways. So cool. Well, anything else we missed?
Trying to think.
I think we
just, what am I going to do next year?
What are you going to do next year?
I don't know. It's been tricky because it just like with a lot of races not happening next year and just kind of the situation we're in. I've also been just like, I don't know what I do next year. Maybe I'll do another like adventure run. I don't know, but yeah, or maybe I'll decide to do a road 5K or something. I'm just kidding.
Well,
I know one listener who would be excited about that.
You know who you are.
The road.
Great. Awesome, Abby. Thank you. Any which way that people can find you or reach out to you that you're comfortable with?
Yeah, totally. If people want to follow me on Instagram, it is _is_for_Abby. You can also find me on Facebook too. It's under Abby Harris. Feel free to DM me or whatnot. I still actually have people who send me messages because they're recovering from like a big injury, and they're always curious. They're like, I need some reassurance. So I'm always happy to chat with people about just pretty much anything. It's what helped me in the beginning of all this. I just like literally would ask people questions, and there's no shame or harm in it. I'm pretty open about, anything really. But yeah, if you guys want to reach out to me, then I don't have a Twitter or anything like that. So
Fair enough. Well, thank you for your open and honest answers and sharing your story. I appreciate your time too.
Totally. Thanks for having me on here. Always a pleasure to chat with you.
Absolutely.
I'd like to thank once again Abby for coming on here and lending her insight and sharing her story. Abby has a long story with definitely some trials and tribulations. So she's been through a lot and still came out the other side and managed to do something pretty incredible this year. So I'm glad I got to be a part of that. So thank you, Abby. I hope everybody had a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving, and real special time with those that are closest to you. I know we couldn't do much, so I'd really hoped sincerely that you had some time with some special people. So all is good here on the Saft frontier. Mr. Keegan is in his cross-country season, so my son's in 8th grade and finishing up his middle school cross-country season. And he's doing really well. His middle school has a really strong team, so it's been fun. They've had 2 meets, and we've got another one. Will be right after this is released, so maybe we'll have him on and kind of talk about his season and some of the kids. I wanted to have the family on for Thanksgiving special, but some extenuating circumstances arose just as usually they do around the holidays, so that didn't happen. But everybody's fine, thankfully, and we're looking forward to hopefully racing the Pilot Mountain Goat December 19th. Keegan's going to run the 3-mile race, and I hope to run the 7-mile race if all is okay. Obviously, things with COVID are getting a little bit hairy, so who knows? We definitely want to be safe and don't want to cause any more problems, so we'll help play it by ear. So running's been going well. Good recovery after the Duncan Ridge 50K for me. I hope you enjoyed that episode last week. And I got in 104 miles the week after Duncan Ridge. Had some great running. Of course, you can see my training and everything I've been doing on Strava. It's been great to have people following and asking questions. I'm here for that as a resource as well. To that extent, coaching is extremely busy right now. My goodness, all of a sudden, I've had a surge of people reaching out for coaching. I guess as 2021 approaches, I kind of have to take a look and make sure. I think might be reaching capacity. So if you're interested in coaching, please do reach out. If I have space, I would certainly love to have the conversation with you. Lord knows, hopefully 2021 we can get back to some racing, even if we have to have some stipulations and revisions because of COVID. At least at least we can do what we love to do. If not, hopefully we can just continue to run and train and enjoy our sport. But so reaching out to me, you can reach out runningpains@gmail.com. My website, mrrunningpains.com. My newsletter will be coming out soon again for December. So you can sign up for the newsletter on mrrunningpains.com. Again, you can follow me on Strava. On there, I'm Aaron Saft, MR Runningpains. I've been posting on Facebook, the MR Runningpains coaching page, as well as Instagram, which is MR Runningpains as well. So give a follow. I've been asked to do a few new YouTube videos. Obviously, with the holidays, things have just been a little bit crazy. And the approaching Christmas season for us with the kids. It's been a little bit busy, but I do hope to pump out some content on the YouTube channel, and that is Aaron Saft for the channel. Plenty on there. But once again, I want to thank everybody for listening, being a part of this. If you have anything you'd like to hear on the podcast, please let me know. I'll be recording an episode with a legend in ultra running, not only locally but nationally. Her name is Ann Riddle. I've really looked up to Ann for a long time. She's done some amazing things in her career, and I'm looking forward to our conversation. That podcast won't come out for another 2 weeks, just because of when we're recording next week. But really look forward to that conversation and putting that episode out. But if you have ideas or even want to just come on the podcast and talk about something, I welcome it. So please reach out. I thank you all for the feedback too. Means a lot to hear from you guys. Whether it's on a social media platform or an email or a review. Sincerely, I read them all and I do appreciate them. I take them to heart. Take all considerations, recommendations, everything to heart. So I appreciate them. Thank you. So until next time, my friends, keep running. Can't wait to see you guys on the trails, and stay safe.